Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the work session of November 1st for the Salisbury City Council. We have a very short agenda tonight, and it contains one item, which is an ordinance to accept SFY 2021 Emergency Housing Program funding for the 21 cold weather shelter. And presenting today will be Christine Chestnut, Manager of Housing and Homelessness. Christine, could you come up and join us? Welcome.
So we have applied for funding through the Somerset County Health Department. That's where most of our funding comes through. If it comes through HUD or DHCD, they have authorized through an emergency housing program grant that is new, us to provide the funding for the cold weather shelter for rent and utilities, which will last November 6th through April 30th. So that's what this funding is. Normally the cold weather shelter runs January to March, but we saw the need because of the increase in homelessness to have it for a longer time frame than that. So that's what this would pay for. We would pay the nonprofit directly.
Okay. Just lost it. Hold on a second. And the funding will be used just for the public's edification. It will be used to, those funds that you're going to reimburse will be used for what?
For rent and utilities for the cold weather shelter.
For the shelters
Yes.
themselves. Gotcha. Any questions or comments from the council?
How many people do you anticipate?
They will have 30 beds. So on a normal, like last year, I think they served a total of like 62 people because people come and go from there. But they are set up with 30 cots, all with dividers between for COVID purposes. They did the same last year. It's just at a different church this year.
Okay.
Any other questions?
So they're not doing it at any, the cold weather shelter is going to just be at one church?
Yes, ma'am. It'll be held at the Park Seventh-day Adventist out past the Shorebird Stadium. The church is going to provide transportation from the Calvert Street bus station out to the shelter and then return them back in the morning. You know, it used to be at Wycomico Presbyterian. They didn't want to do it for the long term, the 6 months. So Park Seventh-day Adventist agreed to let us use their building.
So no other churches doing
No. They're asking other churches to volunteer for food and volunteers the way that they always would. We saw a decrease in assistance from the other churches when COVID happened because many of the volunteers were elderly and they were concerned about, you know, catching COVID because they had underlying health issues. So last year it was held at one church and this year again, but they're asking for volunteers from the churches who can volunteer to please do so. But it won't jump church to church like normal.
And did you say it's from November 2021 to April?
April of 2022. So November 6th, this Saturday, until April of 30th of 2022.
That's good.
Great. Since there's no other questions, we have consensus to move it forward.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, any comments?
I don't, but I'll defer to Julia.
Christine,
Good.
can you share with the public how folks can get involved and volunteer?
Yes. So the city's website, we have the link to the go on departments and then housing community development. And scroll down to the bottom for cold weather shelter information. There's also a Facebook page called Hands and Hearts Ending Homelessness. They've created a nonprofit this year to help raise funds for the cold weather shelter, and they will need to. That page gives you the email and the phone number. Their Facebook page does, and they need food and volunteers. So, for the whole 6 months.
So will you also need clothing?
Sometimes you could certainly call Walter and ask the guy that's running the shelter. He could see, because some of the guys just have access to that kind of stuff, but I'm sure they'll need coats and things for sure.
Now, let me ask you
Gloves.
another thing too. Is this just for the men?
It is right now. He wants to have a long-term shelter that would be available to men and women, but usually women with children can go, Halo or Christian Shelter will take them in. It's more difficult with the men.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Well, Julia will put that on the agenda for next week. Okay. That concludes the items on the agenda. Now we're to the council and administration remarks. Mr. Mayor? Nothing. Ms. Glantz? Mr. Boda?
Happy Monday.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson? That's okay. Ms. Blake?
Just if you're healthy enough, please donate blood. We're still very low.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, for attending. We appreciate it.
Always.
With that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.